Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, who's prepared for Barcelona's big Champions League match today. Bill, big day for us also in basketball. We did it, the playoffs, or at least the play-in starts today.
Yeah, by the way, Paramount Plus, 3 o'clock Eastern, right? Subscribe, watch a little soccer. Yeah, big day for us, stressful day for me, and I know you're going to help me with the thing about this is it's great that the play-in's here and that we're basically at playoff basketball. It also means there's some responsibilities, John, that I know we're going to dive into that are stressful this year. Yeah,
we're going to get into those in just a second. I should mention also that Joe Dumars looks like he's set to become the new general manager of the Pelicans after they fired David Griffin yesterday. I encourage everybody to go read Sam Quinn's piece on CBSSports.com. On behalf of Sam, I'm going to summarize his piece and say that he found it to be a curious hire, but go and read that. All right, later in the show, the play-ins, as I mentioned, they start tonight. 7-8 matchups in the East and the West. We'll do previews and predictions, but as Bill alluded to, the end of the regular season means that now it's time for Bill to vote for awards. And we have been sort of marching toward this for a while, Bill, where you and I had discussed, hey, you've got an official ballot. I don't. We're going to help you talk it through. I'm going to be sort of your NBA awards ballot therapist here. But you have some big decisions, and it's vexing you a little bit.
You're my consigliere. And by the way, I want to just take a minute to thank the NBA. Several other voters have expressed this to me as well. Thank you for giving us the ballot in the middle of the night and then giving us 11 minutes to fill it out. I'm very excited that I woke up. I mean, you know it's coming, but you know how you sort of put off the actual emotional decision-making when it's difficult. Yeah, I need your help, John, because I think at the top of the MVP ballot, the two guys that we're going to talk about, and some other places in some of these awards, I mean, I voted on and off for 12 years. I think this is the most excruciating vote I've ever had to do.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on the show all season long. Let's start with the MVP. It really comes down to two players, SGA with Oklahoma City and Nikola Jokic, who's won 3 of the last 4. The CBSSports.com Reiter poll had a 4-3 vote going to SGA as the winner. You've sort of oscillated back and forth. Where are you right now? Because you texted me right before the show and you said, basically, you have to work all day. You're essentially going to submit the ballot and your decision on this and other things like all NBA and all defense right after we're done the show. So for all the viewers, Bill's doing this live here. Bill, where are you right now at, 10 Pacific?
So on that, by the way, CBS Sports.com, on the website, on the writers, I was the deciding 4th vote for SGA because I told the editor, I'll do it, but I have no idea how I'm actually going to vote. And I'm leaning, man, I hate myself. I'm leaning Joker. So I have gone back and forth. I dreamt about it last night. I dreamt that I was drowning in a building and he came to say, it was very weird, John. Not to give. So look, it's one of the greatest seasons he's ever had. It's one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. And I guess we can get into it. One of the hangups I have, and so I'm calling people and people are basically making cases for people they're connected to or just what they think is right. And the thing that keeps sticking in my head from the SGA crowd or the anti-Joker crowd, and I should say everyone sort of concedes both these guys deserve it. Only one guy can be the winner. They're both worthy. But can you really vote for MVP for a guy whose coach was fired a few days before the end of the regular season? And I think my answer is I can.
Yeah, you know what? There is no wrong answer here. They are both really deserving applicants, potential winners here. Joker was asked about this, a month ago, and he said, I'm playing the best basketball that I've ever played in my life, which for him to even acknowledge, he's generally pretty demure about these things, but for him to even acknowledge that he's playing at that level, and he said, look, if I win it, great. If I don't, SGA is a deserving winner. I think that that's correct. SGA has had a phenomenal season. Oklahoma City has had a phenomenal season. But I was thinking about this earlier today, Bill. I'm walking the dog. I was thinking about your conundrum about who you pick here. I'm I'm trying to put in as much effort into thinking this through with you as possible. And I think Oklahoma City is clearly the better team, right? If you take SGA off of that team, are they first in the Western Conference? No. But are they going to make the playoffs or the play-in at least? Yeah, I think they are. If you take Joker off of Denver, a team that just fired their head coach and their front office general manager because they don't get along, but also because things weren't working out, that team absolutely craters. I mean, his supporting cast is not nearly as good. That guy put up a 60-point triple-double, average a triple-double for the season with ridiculous 57, 80, 41 splits. First center ever to do that. That team would be nowhere. They would be dead in the water without him. Whereas SGA, yes, he's a very good piece. He's obviously the engine, but they have plenty of other talent to at least make them relevant.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're sort of in my head here, and you're like, because like that's where my thoughts go to two other places too. And these are thought experiments that feel ridiculous, but when the margins are this thin, I don't know how else to sort of navigate how to make this call. If you swapped SGA and Joker, do I think that Thunder team would win 70-ish games and be NBA champion favorites? I do. I think SGA is amazing. I think he's awesome. I love his game. If you put him on this very flawed Denver team, do I think through no fault of his own they would be worse than the 4 seed they are right now? Yes, I think probably they'd be a worse basketball team. And John, since I personally believe that every team 1 through 8 can make a run to the conference finals or beyond, and maybe people disagree on Memphis given their turmoil, but since I think the West is that crowded and that interesting and that much of a minefield, and the Nuggets finished 4th, like that placement, even though it was marginal, I think is somewhat significant for me. He didn't just carry him. He carried him in a brutal conference to a position where, they've got an I know they have a tough second round matchup, but they had a pretty nice season despite the fact they have one guy you can rely on.
Yeah, I mean, the award isn't who's the best basketball player in the world. If it was, it would be Joker. We wouldn't be having this conversation. The award is who's the most valuable. And I think for all the reasons that you just outlined, it's Joker for me. I mean, again, the first center ever to average a triple-double, certainly the first player to average a triple-double with those shooting splits, and then also just the third player ever to do it after Russ and Oscar Robertson. He's just been so impressive this season. And think about his supporting cast, Bill. We have Michael Porter Jr., who you and I have maligned up and down over because he has so much talent. I mean, he's so athletic. Yeah. He's big. He's fast. He's strong. He can shoot the ball. We keep waiting for him to take the jump. That guy should be a superstar in this league, never been an all-star. Jamal Murray, never been an all-star, in and out of the lineup, inconsistent, had a slow start to the year, got better, and then all of a sudden his hammy flared up. Christian Brown stepped into the starting lineup, and everybody's like, he's a revelation. Maybe he ends up on the most improved player ballot. But that's what Joker is working with here, whereas SGA, look around at that team, Bill. Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, and 2 guys in Jalen Williams, who's probably going to make All-NBA, and Lou Dort, who both of those 2 guys are probably going to be on second team All-Defense. I mean, that team is, and then you get to the bench players, and they're just all so good. So yeah, what Joker has done this season and keeping a team afloat that is understaffed in terms of their talent, and then obviously had quite a bit of drama going on behind the scenes to the point where they just decided, the Cronkies just decided, we can't have this anymore. Right before the playoffs, you both got to go. Joker's the one guy, I think, in the entire league who could make that thing work and still could, Bill. There's a chance, a non-zero chance that they go deep into the playoffs.
And so this is the thing. I think that's right. I have 52 minutes to figure this out. It's just so stressful. My wife, I'm going to make this family friendly because we're on CBS Sports Network. Okay. My wife loves Sex and the City. She's a huge Sex and the City fan. She watches on repeat. And there's an episode where a character keeps saying, I hate myself. That's the punchline of his actions. When I fill this ballot out, whatever I do, and I think it's Joker 1, because once you send it, the way that the sort of formatting works in the NBA voting is it's over. It's done. There's no recall. You send it into the ether and it's over. I am going to announce internally that I hate myself, because even though I think you are right and that's where I'm going, it's such a difficult call. This less feels like I'm going to get it right than get it as least wrong as possible.
Yeah, I don't think that you can get it wrong. They're both really worthy. The other question here and the other conundrum is when you send in your MVP ballot, you've got to do a top 5. Now, there are 4 guys who are locked. So in whatever order you put SGA and Joker, I don't think you're going to be wrong. And then after that, you're going to have Giannis and Tatum. And whatever order you want to put those 2 guys, I don't think you're going to be wrong. The 5th one is another decision that you have to make where it is awfully difficult. Yeah. There's so many different candidates, Bill, on who could end up 5. You have Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland and Jalen Brunson, and some people like Cade Cunningham. I've seen LeBron on some ballots. I've seen Steph on some ballots. Are you leaning any way for 5?
I am. And I need some help here. And by the way, after you pick this 5th person, which is basically also all NBA first team, so it's not insignificant, then you've got 6 names, John, after that, and you can only fit 5 of them onto the second team. So there's an incredible name that's going to fall to the third team as well. Yeah. For the final part of the MVP ballot, I mean, look, I have so many names written down, and I'm looking down at my ballot right now. I'm leaning LeBron, and I keep sort of like jumping to Cade, and then jumping to Brunson, and then jumping to Mobley, and then thinking about and then kind of downgrading him and sort of going through this. Who am I forgetting? Cat's a guy that's really interesting. Donovan Mitchell's interesting. So LeBron James helped carry that team before the trade and when AD was hurt. He is putting up ridiculous numbers. He's not averaging a triple-double like Joker, but he's not that far off. He impacts every aspect of the game. The Lakers are the 3 seed. And even though Luka's arrival, I think, gives the Lakers a much higher ceiling than they had, and they're legitimate championship contenders, and the odds show that, they've actually been, if you really dive into the numbers since the trade deadline, they're very mediocre offensively over that stretch. They're very mediocre defensively over that stretch. What they've done is they've won games, and if you've watched those games, certainly Luka's been a part of that. A lot of it's LeBron finding ways to impact basketball and impact winning. And so, again, this is sort of like voting for MVP. Maybe the stakes aren't as high, but the sort of degree of difficulty is I'm leaning LeBron, but you are going to be the last voice in my ear. So if you want to sway me, please sway me.
No, you're kind of swaying me towards LeBron for all the reasons that you just outlined, up to and including the fact that he's 40 years old. And there was a stretch at the beginning of the season where people were talking about his on-off numbers and them being a little down. And then all of a sudden, LeBron remembered that he's LeBron. And this was, again, before Luka came in, when AD was down. He was the guy that was doing it at both ends of the floor on a roster that, let's just say, is imperfect. So I don't think that that's a bad pick at all for MVP in the 5 slot, especially because most valuable player. He's been extremely valuable all season. I do have an idea on this, though. Let's take a quick break, and then on the other side, I'll tell you what my thought process was for that 5 slot. And then, as Bill mentioned, this is basically, when you go through the top 5, that's basically the start to your first 5 for all NBA. And all NBA now, because it's positionless, is the first 15. So we're going to get into that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Just a reminder that you can get us wherever you get your favorite podcast. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. All right, we're going through, it's awards season, which is fun for some people, not necessarily for Bill. We went through kind of sort of his top 5, which leads us into all NBA first team. My idea, Bill, was kind of what we did last year, where we kind of a little Solomon splitting the baby situation, where last year Jalen Brunson ended up as the 5th guy into the pool for MVP, and then Jason Tatum ended up on first team all NBA as the 5th guy. I had a similar thought this year where Donovan Mitchell needs to be acknowledged some way, whether or not you put him MVP top 5, and then Jalen Brunson gets into the mix. But my idea was I have Jalen Brunson as my 5 on MVP and Donovan Mitchell as my 5th guy on first team all NBA.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I've got Donovan Mitchell and Cat competing to fall to my 3rd team.
Which is not unreasonable, because all the guys we're about to discuss could really be slotted anywhere on 2nd and 3rd team. You and I were discussing in the break. I think it's, give or take a name or two through the first 13 to 14 names, you're going to see the first 13 to 14 names on pretty much everybody's ballot. Now, the ordering is going to differ. You're going to see some guys on first team. As you mentioned, I might have Donovan Mitchell. You might have him on 3rd team. Karl Anthony Towns has had an amazing season. We talked about him earlier in the year, potentially being the 5th guy into the pool on MVP voting. He could fall to the 3rd team. I actually have him on my 3rd team. But I think where it gets really interesting and really difficult, unfortunately for you, is who are the 14th and 15th guys?
It's brutal. So right now, and it's moving. Let's say that I put LeBron on my first team. It goes Cade, Brunson, Ant, Mobley, and then maybe Cat, and then it would go to 3rd team, Donovan Mitchell, Triple J, Halliburton, Steph, and then I got to figure out between Harden and Şengün, whoever else I'm forgetting. But, John, you just said it. You could take the 2nd and 3rd team and largely scramble at least several of those names, and I think it would look reasonable.
Yeah, the only thing that anybody will feel good about is the first 4. The first 4 are locks, right? When you SGA and Joker and Giannis and Tatum. And then after that, it's going to be a real jumble. For me, again, I'd probably go, if we're talking about all NBA, I'd probably have Donovan Mitchell on that first team. My 2nd team then would be Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, LeBron and Steph, who have been remarkable this season. And then Evan Mobley, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, as a potential DPOY candidate, which means, Bill, on my ballot, Karl Anthony Towns, who's had a remarkable season, he falls to 3rd team. Anthony Edwards, our podcast producer, Aaron, was talking about how Ant should be on second team. He had Steph and Ant both making second team. I said to him, I'll take that bet because I think it's going to be so difficult for voters to get both of those guys onto the second team. I have him falling. Then I have Jalen Williams, who had his first All-Star season this year. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., who's going to be on a lot of people's ballots for first team all defense. That leaves a lot of difficult questions after that. You've got Alperen Şengün, and does he make it? James Harden, Darius Garland, Bill, in Cleveland, Tyrese Halliburton, who's been resurgent towards the end of the season. It's tough. I
got a weird Pacers thing, as you know, from the podcast this year.
You love the Pacers.
I watch a lot of Pacers games. And we talked about this in the break. If you look at his assist to turnover numbers, they're extraordinary. And even though his sort of scoring numbers don't pop off the page or the screen, he has such an impact. I don't have Jalen Williams. I've got Halliburton instead. So for me, it's look, Domantas Sabonis is a guy that's not even on my list, although he's on the sort of almost list. My last slot right now, also painful, is between Harden and Şengün, and I think I'm going James Harden. I'm kind of heavy lean James Harden final slot.
All right, let's talk about that for the final slot because you have Halliburton over Jalen Williams, which is perfectly reasonable. Two guys that I really respect. Dan Devine, who I used to work with at The Ringer, now at Yahoo, he had him on his ballot. And then John Hollinger, former NBA executive, now at The Athletic, he also had him on his ballot. I'm a Jalen Williams guy just because I think that he's the 1A, 1B, depending on what Chet's doing on a given night to SGA. But I get it, and I think that that's a good person to swap out if you're going to swap out Jalen Williams. Alperen Şengün and James Harden, I think that that's probably where I land on the last guy too, number 15.
Okay.
We're even talking about James Harden, Bill, is shocking to me.
Yes.
Because we came into this year, both of us, super down on James Harden. Didn't exactly put himself well last year. But right. Kawhi Leonard being out for the beginning of the year and Norm Powell warming into that new PG role, it really was offensively. Their identity was defense all season, but offensively, it was James Harden. He's been fantastic.
It's interesting having you talk about other guys' ballots, other people's ballots, because smart or not smart, I don't look at other ballots and I don't look at betting odds the last 2 weeks out because I just want to assess it myself. But sometimes I have my ballot will come out like 2 or 3 years ago when Embiid won. I went Joker 1, Giannis 2, Embiid who won 3. So I definitely so this is an interesting sort of sounding board because I try not to sort of look at what everyone else is doing because I don't want to get caught up in if maybe there's a narrative push at the end. But that's the Harden thing. It sounds like you think is reasonable. I wonder who am I missing here? Jalen Williams. That's the case.
Jalen Williams. I would make the case for Jalen Williams being your last guy over both Alperen Şengün and James Harden. And I love the Rockets, and we'll get into the Rockets. We'll be back on CBS Sports Network on Friday. We're going to do a big playoff preview show, and we'll discuss whoever the Rockets end up drawing in the first round. My problem with the Alperen Şengün argument is he's been really good this season. I'm not entirely sure he's the best player on that team, Bill. I mean, you know how much I love Amon Thompson. We're going to get to Defensive Player of the Year and all defense in just a second here. If I had to pick one of those two guys, if we were put to a dilemma where one of those guys stays on the Rockets and the other one gets exiled from Houston Island, I think I'm exiling Alperen Şengün just because Amon Thompson can do so many different things and he's just a freak athletically.
The problem becomes, and this also sort of messed with me on all NBA defense and even Defensive Player of the Year, which he doesn't make the ballot, is Thompson's been incredible down the stretch. He has shut down some of the best players in the NBA in the last couple of weeks in games that were significant for the teams the Rockets are playing. So sometimes I don't want to get – maybe I should, but I don't want to get caught up too much in recency bias, although Amon Thompson's been amazing for most of the season. But I'm trying really hard to look at the totality of the year.
Yeah. Over the course of the year, Şengün was really good. James Harden was really good. Tyrese Halliburton had a slow start to his season. He was inconsistent. Now, his numbers over the, last half of the season, last 3 quarters of the season were real. Yeah, he's been really good. Yeah. Now, out of the gate wasn't great, but I understand why you went with Halliburton. Tell me why you were thinking maybe not Jalen Williams, because for me, Jalen Williams is not to say undeniable, but he's taken that leap forward this season where I go, oh man, I mean, he's such a critical part for them. I think Chet Holmgren probably is, and he missed such a huge chunk of time, is their second best player, but I don't know that the margin is that wide. That's how good Jalen Williams has been.
So let's dive into this a little bit, because I do wonder if maybe the excellence of the Thunder has diluted how I view individuals, because it was hard for me to get Lou Dort to a place in the ballot that's sort of at first on the Defensive Player of the Year ballot that at first blush you might think. And obviously I haven't gotten to SGA being my MVP pick. It's probably going to be Jokic and Jalen Williams. It's sometimes just hard for me to separate the individual excellence from a team collective that is so good. And not that these guys aren't great, but if one guy's out, it's not as if, box score plus minus or whatever impact offensively or defensively or whatever you're looking at drops significantly. And I'm not saying everybody's interchangeable, but that team is so well drilled. They're so talented that I think sometimes individual excellence doesn't shine as brightly because there's other pretty bright lights playing next to all those guys.
I think that's fair. It just goes to say, again, how difficult this decision is for you, because, Bill, we have been critical of the 65 game threshold. In order to qualify for All NBA and for a lot of these awards, players have to reach 65 games. Bill, if they didn't implement that, you would have these are the players who are not eligible. You would have to consider KD. You would have to consider maybe Wemby, Luka, Anthony Davis. Damian Lillard didn't qualify. Jimmy Butler, who went from an awful situation in Miami to being a critical cog in Golden State and unlocking Steph and Draymond Green and making that team viable even though they fell to the play-in. There's all these players, Bill, that we're not even considering that you'd have to consider.
Yeah, let me walk back my criticism of the 65-game threshold and say thank you, Adam Silver. Thank God, NBA. Because maybe I'd be here having a conversation with you about how I have Victor Wembanyama on my All-NBA third team and maybe my Defensive Player of the Year, even though he missed a ton of games. And, man, where would you slot KD into that? You're right. Because in the past, before that, I would put LeBron and KD and guys that missed a lot of time but were outstanding in their time. They were in the 50s. I put them third team. That was kind of my compromise with myself.
Yeah, they have really saved you from yourself and taken a little bit of the stress out of it. Because I think if we were saying who's the best defensive player in the NBA, forget about the games. It's Victor Wembanyama, not eligible. We're going to take a quick timeout, and then on the other side, we'll discuss who should be Defensive Player of the Year, as well as who should be on Bill's first and second team all defense. That's coming up. Don't go anywhere. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. It is playoff time, which means, unfortunately for Bill, it is also award season. We're helping him work through his ballot, which he has to submit in mere moments. We did MVP. We sort of did MVP. We sort of did all NBA. And we're on to Defensive Player of the Year now, which is also up in the air because Victor Wembanyama, who would have run away with this award, Bill, is ineligible, didn't clear the 65-game threshold because he has a blood clot, which leaves candidates such as Evan Mobley. Draymond Green has made his case. Amon Thompson came on late. Dyson Daniels, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been very good. Ivica Zubac. The CBSSports.com NBA Reiter poll, Bill. 3 votes for Evan Mobley, 2 votes for Draymond Green, 1 for Amon Thompson. That was Sam Quinn. And then Ivica Zubac. That came from Brad Botkin. Which way are you leaning right now? They're all worthy.
So I also was on that list, and I also have changed everything. So right now, this is the most malleable outside of my MVP 1 and 2. Right now, I've got Dyson Daniels with the word UGG written next to his name. That's how conflicted I am. That's my very professional note-taking. Then I've got Evan Mobley. Then I've got Draymond. Then I've got Draymond Green. And the thing that I'm struggling with on the guy that I'm thinking about voting for is, on the one hand, Atlanta's defense is it's bad, right? It is bottom third in the NBA.
Middle of the pack,
and that should matter. It always has to me. On the other hand, and Howard Beck mentioned this to me today, that we live in a time now, there's so much data in the NBA that you can really dive into things in a way and see things differently than maybe you could 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. When he's on the floor, they have the 3rd best defense in the NBA. Like, when he's actually on the floor, they're an elite defense. So I don't feel great about it. And really it's between him and Mobley for me right now, but that's my current lean.
Dyson Daniels has been so good for them. I think right now, David Griffin, no longer the GM of the Pelicans. Man, would he like to have Dyson Daniels back, because he goes to Atlanta and then just becomes an absolute defensive superstar. He's a swipe monster. I didn't realize this, but again, our podcast producer, Aaron, pointed this out. First player since 1991 to average 3 or more steals over the course of a season, which is wild because he also gives you a little bit of rim protection as a 6'8" wing defender. I think Amon Thompson is a better defender defender than him overall, but I don't think picking Dyson Daniels is a bad pick. Draymond, it would be a worthy pick. For me, I'm an Evan Mobley guy just because he really has made the Cleveland Cavaliers, I mean, all season long, they were at the top of the Eastern Conference standings. And part of that was Kenny Atkinson came in and figured out how to play him alongside Jared Allen. And that defense, alongside an offense that is really good shooting the ball, and especially from distance, made that team all of a sudden an actual championship contender. And the guy at the heart of that defense is Evan Mobley. So for me, it was one of those situations where I went, he's really good. He's on an excellent defense. I'm going to try not to overthink it because it should have been one, but it can't be now. I'm going to go Evan Mobley.
I think you might have swayed me. Now, I know at the end of the show we're going to do this if we have time. So every team's not every team, many teams send out swag or a 1 year Karl Anthony Towns team sent me a bunch of Kit Kats as if that's you're an all NBA first teamer because you gave me Kit Kats. I mean, I'm not that easy to sway. At the end of the show, if we have time, I'll show you the Hawks sent maybe the most impressive thing I've seen. So I don't want to be swayed just because they have the best swag. So that's another thing.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of variables here, including what kind of swag you get sent from teams. But let's expand the conversation a little bit to all defense first team, because for me, the guys that we just mentioned, I think, are pretty solidly first team: Evan Mobley, Draymond Green, Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels. And the last one for me is Jaren Jackson Jr. You see Ivica Zubac there. If you want to quibble and take one of those names off and put him on there, I wouldn't argue with you. But those first five names for me, Bill, are pretty interchangeable on first team.
It's interesting. So Zubac is definitely a second teamer. So right now I have Triple J and Amen Thompson written down on the same final line of my all-NBA first team, and I'm trying to figure out which one I'm going to go with. So that is, for me, sort of the end of that list of NBA first team, and one of them falls to the second team. You have Triple J. Make the case for me, because, I'm very easy to influence right now. I'm in a state of sort of stress and panic over this vote. So this is your chance to – you love this guy too. So this is a big moment.
I do. I really do. Before I make the case, so your first four then are Draymond, Evan Mobley, Dyson Daniels, and who's the other one?
Dyson Daniels and Lou Dort. I have Lou Dort on there too.
Oh, you have Lou Dort. Okay. Well, you know what? Lou Dort being
who did you
just
put
an absolute – I have Amen Thompson. And you know what? Like, I get – Amen Thompson for me is just such a whirling dervish and can his athleticism, his strength, his size, his speed. He put SGA and Steph Curry in the final week of the season in absolute hell, locked them up. I just think he can guard so many different positions. But it was difficult for me because you had Lou Dort. Jalen Williams is a guy that I also have on second team all defense along with Lou Dort. By far and away, the best defense in the NBA this season, and not even close, was Oklahoma City. So for me not to have one of those guys, at least one of those guys on first team, it felt like a slight, but it was just like, okay, I think it's greater than the sum of the parts, and I don't think it's that much of a snub to have them on second team, but I get why you did Lou Dort. Let me make the case for Jaren Jackson Jr. This has been a weird season in Memphis. As you know, they ended up firing Taylor Jenkins. Ja was in and out of the lineup. The one guy who was constant and who played at both ends of the floor and who was just, they were trying to figure out what to do with Zach Edey. He was supposed to guard the rim. Jaren Jackson Jr. was a revelation, and he's the rare big, unlike, say, Rudy Gobert or some of these other guys who get lost in space when they get put out in the perimeter, Bill. When he's out on the perimeter, he's fine. He's switchable. I love that guy. He protects the rim, and he can get taken away from the basket and not end up costing you. I think he's fantastic, and he deserves an acknowledgement with first-team defense.
It feels like a requirement to me to have somebody from the Thunder on the first All-NBA, on the All-NBA first team, and it also feels like a requirement to have somebody from the Clippers on the second team. So that if that logic holds, it's Dre, it's Daniels, it's Mobley, it's Dort. Then I would have to choose between Triple J, who you just made a great case for, and Amen Thompson. And obviously Houston's superpower has been defense this year, and that he locked up the two of the three most dynamic offensive players, or two of the four most dynamic offensive players in the NBA.
I'd go Thompson.
Would you put Thompson
over if it's between Amen or Triple J, then I'd move Triple J down to the second team. The second team gets interesting too, Bill, because what do you do then? So now you've got Triple J. You had mentioned Zubac. Jalen Williams is out there. Toumani Camara has been a revelation for Portland. What's your second team looking like?
He's on my ballot. I've got Thompson right now, or Triple J, Gobert, Camara, Jalen Williams, and Zubac. That's my That's my second team right now. And by the way, that's a hell of a team. Would you push Dort down to second team and elevate Triple J then to? Because it's Dort, Amen Thompson, or Triple J that have to make room. Two of those guys can make my first team. Only two.
Yeah, I do have both of the Oklahoma City guys on second team, along with Zubac, Gobert, and Tumani Kamara, which, Bill, by the way, that means guys like Derek White, who was second team all NBA, all defense last year, OG Anunoby, who's been fantastic, Bam Adebayo, Jaden McDaniels, Chris Dunn, who's ineligible because of the minutes threshold. All those guys don't make the cut.
No, and I was texting you this. The most excruciating part of this year's voting is MVP, is all NBA in some of those sort of, up and down spots to 1, 2, and 3, and is the defensive votes, the defensive player of the year, and trying to figure some of this out. Because you're right, there are some really talented guys who aren't even going to get on a bunch of ballots, including mine.
The one that I felt the worst about by far was Derek White. I mean, not having Derek White on all defense if I was going to say who's one of the most versatile Swiss Army knife defenders in the NBA, it would be Derek White. I mean, there's nothing that guy can't do, and I don't think he's going to make the cut for me or a lot of people this year.
Yeah, I think for me, you'd have to bump Kamara or Zubac in order to get White on the ballot, and I haven't done. That's not. I mean, again, I have. Oh my God, I have 22 minutes. That can change my mind, but right now, as it stands, he's not on the ballot.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation for Bill's sake during the break, but don't go anywhere because there are even more awards that Bill must vote on, including Six-Man MVP, Coach of the Year. We're going to do all of those on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. A reminder, you can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. And there's a little bell symbol. If you click on that, you'll get notified when we go live. We're going to start doing a whole bunch of live shows as the playoffs kick off, including tonight with the play-in. We'll be live on YouTube right after the 7-8 matchup, a juicy one between the Warriors and the Grizzlies. That should be good. Come and join us. All right, Bill's award ballot continues. The pain continues, Bill. I want to bring up, let's do Most Improved Player because you hate this award. I find your rant on this hilarious. Candidates include Dyson Daniels, Ivica Zubac, Christian Brown, maybe some Amen Thompson in there. I would like some consideration for Cade Cunningham, but tell people why you don't think he should be even mentioned in this award, Bill. Yeah,
I'm outraged by. So as you know, this makes me very, very frustrated. I just don't think it should be the most improved player. Shouldn't be someone who is clearly just progressing the way they were always going to along their path to stardom and excellence. I mean, Cade Cunningham's been good for a minute, dude. It's not like he just came out of nowhere. Most improved players should be most improved, not welcome to your third-year NBA or fourth-year NBA superstar.
There are a lot of people who vote who think like you, who are like, why are we even talking about Cade Cunningham? It's been a big discussion on social media, especially when he's a guy that you and I were just talking about probably being second or third team All-NBA. Not probably. He will land second or third team All-NBA. There's some guys like Michael Pino over at The Ringer who had him first team All-NBA. That's how good he is. I just think he went from not being an all-star last year, not being all-NBA, to doing that. Just some consideration, but I understand why you're not doing it. Which way are you leaning right now between, say, Daniels, say Zubac, Christian Brown? The CBSSports.com Reiter poll had Dyson Daniels winning it 4-3 over Zubac.
So mine is done. Mine is pretty comfortably Dyson Daniels 1 and Christian Brown 2, Zubac 3. That feels pretty.
That feels good.
Like a lock for me. And by the way, to the point about the rant, I also just, on the other side of this, Dyson Daniels wasn't recognized for what he was at the place where he started his career. Kind of came out of nowhere. His improvement is legitimate in the sense that had he just been out of the league in 3 years, that wouldn't have been an eyebrow raiser for a lot of people. Or had he been totally without impact, right? Cade Cunningham not becoming an all-NBA player might have in 4 years been, okay, he never lived up to his draft status. But it would have been somewhat of a surprise if Cade Cunningham wasn't really, really good. What Dyson Daniels has done, the fact he's in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, that's what I think the award should be.
Yeah, I think you should feel good about that. This might be the easiest decision of all the things that we've discussed so far, because Dyson Daniels went from a guy who was just kind of a throw-in, or not so much a throw-in, but like, hey, maybe he'll develop in this trade that brought DeJounte Murray to New Orleans, to a guy who is a lock for first team all defense and has done something that nobody's done since 1991, which is average 3 or more steals over the course of a season. He's been awesome, and he's a really good defender, and you should feel good about that one. All right, other awards here. Sixth Man of the Year candidates include Peyton Pritchard and Malik Beasley. The CBSSports.com Reiter poll had it Pritchard 5-2. I think it's pretty comfortably Peyton Pritchard. He's been good for them all season. Has been a bucket and instant offense guy off the bench for the Celtics. Which way are you going?
Those are my 1-2 in that order, Pritchard and Beasley. I'm still sort of at an impasse on 3. Ty Jerome. Can't believe Russell Westbrook's in, but I'm thinking about Russell Westbrook, but I'm with you. The actual Sixth Man of the Year is what a weird year it's been in the NBA. People getting fired, Luka Doncic traded. I'm going to celebrate Russell Westbrook's excellence on my ballot potentially, but Peyton Pritchard for me is clearly the Sixth Man of the Year. This is the easiest vote on the whole ballot, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think so too. Ty Jerome, yeah, I'd probably put him third, but after those first two are, I think, pretty indisputable, and Peyton Pritchard, I think, had this thing locked up for a while. We get into a more difficult one here, Bill, just because this rookie class might be the worst one in recent memory, but the Rookie of the Year candidates include Stephon Castle, Jalen Wells, who the Grizzlies, despite the fact that they're in turmoil there by firing their coach, Jalen Wells became not just a guy that they just plucked out of obscurity and not just a guy that they decided to bring off their bench, but like a critical rotation piece, Bill. He just broke his wrist. It's unfortunate. He's going to miss time for them, but he's had an awesome year for them. Stephon Castle, too, has been really good. Some people in Atlanta think Zachary Risachet should be mentioned here. I think it's Stephon Castle, and you don't have to really worry about it that much.
Yeah. So, by the way, every year I vote for this, and I just, my heart hurts for rookies because every year these guys aren't very good. It's hard to transition to the NBA. I've got Castle at 1, and then I've got to figure out between Risachet and Sarr and what's his name in Memphis. I mean,
Jalen Wells.
I just, and honestly, I don't have a lot of emotional investment, and I don't care, but I need to care because I have a vote for 2 and for 3 because I think it's easily Stephon Castle. He's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and he's going to be my vote.
Yeah, the CBSSports.com Reiter poll had Castle 5-2 over Wells. I'd like to implore you to put Wells 2 because, as I mentioned, Jaren Jackson Jr. was the one constant for this team, for the Memphis Grizzlies all season while Ja was in and out of the lineup and missed a big chunk of time. That Jalen Wells came from, just kind of obscurity and being a critical rotation piece for them while Ja was in and out of the lineup, while Desmond Bane missed some time. That kid is he's got a real future, and I thought that he was unheralded and really acquitted himself well. Coach of the Year candidates, Bill, we've got Kenny Atkinson, J.B. Bickerstaff, J.J. Redick, Ime Udoka, Ty Lue. The CBSSports.com poll had Kenny winning it with 5 votes, followed by Sam Quinn voted for Ty Lue, and then Brad Botkin gave Ime a vote. No votes for J.B. Bickerstaff. No votes for J.J. Redick. I kind of found that curious.
You love J.J. Redick. Here is my ballot as it stands. But this is we're going to kind of do a shared ballot. You just sold me on Wells. I wrote it down while you were talking. I'm in. I've got Kenny Atkinson easy 1. Then it's hard, but I've got JB Bickerstaff 2, and I've got Ime Udoka 3. And I feel pretty good about – and look, again, the people that we're leaving off, Ty Lue, deserving, J.J. Redick, deserving. I like some other awards. I just think the other people ahead of them are incrementally better. But I think Kenny Atkinson is easily and unquestionably the Coach of the Year for most of us.
Yeah, I do too. And I have JB second because of the juxtaposition of how things ended for him in Cleveland. He goes to Detroit. Yeah. They only won 14 games all of last season. Now all of a sudden they're the 6th seed, which we're going to do our big preview on Friday on CBS Sports Network. Bill, I'm really toying with the idea that the Pistons could win that 3-6 matchup over the Knicks, even though I didn't do it on HQ yesterday. I kind of chickened out a little bit. So yeah, I got JB too. If you want to do Ime third, I have no problems with that. I think Ime is a worthy third vote. I think Ty Lue is a worthy third vote. I have JJ third just because nobody knew what to expect. There was a lot of, he's just a podcaster. He only got it because he did a show with LeBron James. There was a lot of upheaval. Anthony Davis was down. The team was kind of like struggling along a little bit. And all of a sudden, he tried so many different lineups and so many different things. And there was a stretch there where he didn't have Anthony Davis and figured out how to make that team a viable defense. Finishing third in the Western Conference that's loaded, that's a great job by JJ.
So it's a great argument. Here's my argument for Ime Udoka at any point of a ballot. And it sort of follows the logic of Executive of the Year, which we don't vote for, but it's obviously an award that exists. Executive vote for it. I think that should be based on a longer timeline. Like if you draft a guy and it takes him 3 years, you should get credit for it. When you have a coach like Udoka, whose job is to come in and to take a young team and to grow that team, I'm willing to extend the timeline a little bit on my evaluation. And as you noted, Redick and the Lakers finished third. Houston finished second.
I can't believe that we just switched roles and you're advocating on behalf of the Rockets, who I love. Everything's upside down today, Bill. Another quick break, and then on the other side, as I mentioned, 7-8 play-in previews and predictions. Those are coming up. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. 7-8 play-ins start tonight, beginning the Eastern Conference. The 8-seed Hawks at the 7-seed Magic. Bill, you mentioned that the Hawks sent you something. What'd they send you?
Oh, yeah, so they got this giant box here. Look at this thing. This thing is huge. So you open it up, John, see if I can get it on TV here.
Okay.
You open this thing up, and it plays all of their highlights.
Oh, wow. High technology.
It's pretty fair. And it's full of a bunch of swag. And look at this. Like,
okay.
I think NBA team. How much do you think this thing costs? And by the way,
a lot.
Very.
That could be your second screen. So you've got those send you some swag Atlanta Hawks against the Magic. I'm taking the Hawks just based on that box, Bill.
The box. By the way, this is I know I'm supposed to care. I don't care. This is the game to be Celtics fodder. You're going to go lose in 4 games to the Celtics, or maybe a gentleman's sweep if they're starting to feel a little lackadaisical in game 4, game 3. But I like Atlanta too. I think they're a better team, and this is a Magic squad that you like. They just injuries this year just weren't quite able to get to the level that was necessary, and they have no offense, which you love.
And super offensively challenged. This is the 1-2-3 Cancun game of play-ins. In the West, though, we've got a really good one tonight. You've got the 8-seed Grizz at the 7-seed Warriors. The Warriors lost in overtime to the Clips on the final day of the regular season to slip into the playoffs. Play-in. Jimmy Butler's health. He's expected to play, even though Kawhi hit his knee in the thigh area, but they've been awesome with Jimmy Butler. Steph's got a thumb thing going on. Look, this could go either way, Bill, but I'm leaning Warriors because I just think they're the better team.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm leaning Warriors too. I think that they have the higher ceiling. They've never won a play-in game, and they've lost every play-in game that they've ever played in the history of this sort of brief reality and part of the NBA. I know a lot of people think Memphis is basically done and they want to go home and it's over. John Morant's a competitor. He's going to try to win this game. There's going to be pride, and that's a good basketball team when he plays well. So you're right. It's a near coin flip.
It's the Warriors for me, but there's obviously a non-zero chance in one game that the Warriors lose this and have to play for the 8 seed. At which point, Bill, if the Warriors got out as the 8 seed and you're looking at Oklahoma City and Golden State in the first round where one of them has to go home, what a disaster that would be for whichever team gets bounced.
Especially for the Thunder, because then you're potentially going Warriors, Clippers, conference final, whatever conference final. That's a tough road for them. That's not a fair road when you have won as many games as the Thunder have won. If you are the Thunder, you're rooting so hardcore for Memphis tonight.
Yes, absolutely. If you're the Thunder. Yeah. Something also just to keep in mind is Jonathan Kuminga DNP-CD versus the Clips. So keep an eye on that rotation tonight. We're going to be live on YouTube tonight right after the 7-8 matchup between the Warriors and the Grizz. You can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. That should be a really good one. Come and join us tonight afterwards. But for now, for our NBA insider Bill Reiter, I'm John Gonzalez. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tonight after Warriors and Grizz.